So picture this. You finally get that exact opportunity you've been, daydreaming about for
Oh,
years.
yeah. We've all been there.
Right. It is just right there in front of you. And instead of jumping at it, um, your brain just completely shuts down.
Completely freezes.
Exactly. Like, why do we sabotage our own excitement?
Well, I mean, we usually frame that shutdown as a character flaw,
Right.
right? Like a sudden loss of nerve or, I don't know, a lack of real commitment.
Yeah, like you're just being lazy or scared.
Exactly. But the material we are looking at today for this deep dive, it actually strips away all those um, self-help cliches,
Thank goodness for that.
right? It looks directly at the actual neurological hardware that's causing that freeze response. And, it turns out we have been fundamentally misinterpreting our own hesitation this whole time.
And that hardware is basically the entire focus of this deep dive today. We are digging into some, frankly, incredibly illuminating excerpts from a piece called The Anatomy of Brave Motion.
It's a fantastic text.
It really is. So our mission today is to figure out the underlying psychological reasons we basically slam on the brakes just as things get good.
Yeah.
And more importantly, uncover how we can bypass our brain's internal security system. Because, if you know what you want, it seems completely logical that you should just be able to act on it.
Well, yeah, but logic rarely wins when your central nervous system's survival mechanisms get triggered.
Fair point.
The text asks a very pointed question early on, actually. It says, if people know exactly what they want, why don't they take the steps to get it?
And the answer is pretty surprising, right?
It's a massive pivot from how we usually think about goal setting.
Yeah.
The source explains that the hesitation has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of motivation.
Wait, really? Nothing at all?
Nothing. It is entirely a function of protection.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because swapping the word laziness for protection just completely changes the framing for me.
It changes everything.
Yeah, and the text anchors this in a core biological reality. It points out that the human brain is designed for survival, not for, expansion or growth.
Right. Evolutionarily speaking, your brain's primary objective is just to keep you alive to see tomorrow. That's it.
Don't get to Tuesday.
Exactly. I mean, it does not care if you are fulfilled. It does not care if you are reaching your, highest creative potential.
It definitely doesn't care about my vision board.
No, it certainly does not care about your dreams. To keep you alive, the brain relies heavily on a threat detection system. And the excerpts specifically call out the role of the amygdala here.
Right, the amygdala,
Wow.
which is constantly scanning the environment, looking for anomalies, right?
Effectively.
And that leads to this massive misconception that the text really highlights. The amygdala interprets literally anything unfamiliar as a potential danger.
Anything new is bad news to the amygdala.
Right. It doesn't differentiate between a negative disruption and, a really positive change.
Because the amygdala is just not capable of nuanced long-term judgment. I mean, it does not look at a new career path or an exciting cross-country move and sit down to run a cost-benefit analysis.
It would be nice, though.
It would be, but it operates on a really strict binary rule. Basically, known equals safe, unknown equals dangerous.
So I kind of picture this like having an overzealous, outdated security system or maybe like a really overprotective bodyguard.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah. So imagine you're just walking down the street,
Right.
And someone suddenly lunges at you to hand you a winning lottery ticket.
Okay, great scenario.
Right. It is an amazing, totally life-changing event.
Right.
But your bodyguard doesn't see a lottery ticket.
Your bodyguard doesn't have the time to, analyze the ink on the paper or comprehend the concept of a lottery.
Exactly.
The bodyguard just sees a sudden, unpredictable object moving rapidly toward your center of mass. And, the immediate response is to just tackle you to the pavement.
Right into the concrete.
Yeah, the system doesn't care that the ticket would make you rich. It only cares that the situation is new, unverified, and therefore it's a threat.
Which means, essentially, we are all walking around with a neurological bodyguard that actively fights against our desire to live a bigger life.
Very much, yeah.
Because the brain strictly prefers what is known and predictable, even if, and this is the wild part, even if that known is a situation that makes you completely miserable.
Well, yeah, because you have survived the misery.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. Your brain has this robust database of evidence proving that you can survive your current unfulfilling job or, your current stagnant routine.
And it's like, hey, we're unhappy, but we're breathing.
Exactly. It is a known variable. But when you introduce the winning lottery ticket or, in real life, the new business venture or the creative project, you are introducing a massive unknown variable.
And to a system that is totally optimized for survival, the unpredictable is just an unacceptable risk.
It will prioritize immediate, predictable safety over your long-term fulfillment every single time.
So when we try to make a positive change, we are essentially fighting against millions of years of evolutionary wiring.
We really are.
That honestly explains so much. It explains why the physical sensation of trying something new can feel so overwhelming, even when it's something we, desperately want.
Because your amygdala is literally flooding your system with the exact same stress hormones it would use if you were being chased by a predator.
That is wild.
It creates a highly confusing emotional cocktail. I mean, you are moving towards something you genuinely desire, but your body is physically preparing for an impact.
Yeah. And that brings us to a really crucial section of the text, which focuses on redefining this fear and excitement combo.
This is a really important pivot in the material.
Because if your bodyguard is tackling you to the ground, but you still really, really want that lottery ticket, you have to learn how to read those mixed signals.
Exactly.
The source explains that excitement and fear almost always appear at the exact same time, like they happen together.
They are biologically intertwined when it comes to novel experiences.
Interesting.
Yeah, when you feel genuinely pulled towards something new, you will inevitably feel a corresponding wave of resistance, doubt, or hesitation. The text really emphasizes that these emotions are a package deal.
You can't just get the good one.
No, you cannot order one without the other.
Which means if you are sitting there feeling absolutely terrified about a new opportunity, the text explicitly reassures us that this mixed feeling does not mean the opportunity is wrong.
And that's so hard for people to accept because we have adopted this societal narrative that if an opportunity is, meant to be, or if it's the right path, it will just feel completely clear and effortless.
Oh, for sure. The whole good vibes only thing.
Right. We expect absolute serenity. So when the doubt creeps in and our stomach ties itself in knots, we just assume we are making a massive mistake.
We think we're doing something wrong.
Yes. We interpret the physical sensation of fear as a stop sign. But according to the psychological mechanics we were reviewing in this deep dive, the hesitation is just the amygdala doing its job.
It's just the bodyguard.
Exactly. It is a feature, not a bug.
Wait, hold on, though. I really have to challenge this on behalf of anyone listening right now who is currently staring down a major life decision.
Okay, let's hear it.
If fear is this blaring, intense physical alarm, and excitement, as the text actually notes, is often just a really subtle whisper, how are we supposed to tell the difference between this is a good opportunity that scares me and this is actually a terrible idea and I should run away?
What's fascinating here is how the text addresses that exact dilemma. It forces us to actively retrain our interpretation of these biological signals.
Retrain how, exactly?
Well, you were pointing out a very real friction. Survival fear is loud because it is designed to be impossible to ignore. You can't ignore a fire alarm.
Right.
But expecting a pure 100% fearless excitement is a dangerous trap. If you wait for the alarm to shut off completely before you act, you will just remain paralyzed indefinitely.
Because that state of pure, fearless excitement, it just contradicts our basic neurobiology.
Precisely. I mean, think through the logic of the system. If an opportunity matters to you, it represents a change from the status quo.
Okay, makes sense.
And because it represents a change, it is unfamiliar. Because it is unfamiliar, the amygdala must fire.
Ah, so it's a chain reaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Therefore, if something truly matters and has the potential to alter your life, fear is just a mathematically guaranteed part of the equation.
That is such a huge reframe.
It is. Changing how we interpret that fear is the vital step. Instead of assuming the alarm means danger, turn back, we have to consciously reframe it as the alarm is ringing because I am leaving my comfort zone, which actually means I am doing something significant.
Wow. That completely flips the script. Like the fear transforms from a stop sign into a compass pointing toward growth.
Beautifully put.
But going back to that subtle nature of excitement for a second, why is excitement so quiet while fear is so overwhelmingly loud? Like, why doesn't excitement get to be a blaring siren?
Because excitement is not a primary survival mechanism. Right. It is an expansion mechanism. It operates in the higher order processing centers of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
It is the pull toward curiosity, toward learning, toward self-actualization.
The fun stuff.
The really fulfilling stuff. Those things are incredibly valuable for a rich human experience. But they are not strictly necessary to keep your heart beating for the next 10 minutes.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Since excitement doesn't need to scream at you to prevent immediate death, it operates at a much lower volume. It requires you to consciously create the mental space to actually listen to it.
So we accept that fear and excitement are a package deal. We accept that the loud, blaring alarm of the amygdala doesn't automatically mean we're making a terrible mistake.
Right.
But how do we actually move forward? Because, I mean, understanding this intellectually is one thing, but when your nervous system is flooded with adrenaline and your inner bodyguard is literally tackling you to the pavement,
It is incredibly difficult.
yeah, it is incredibly difficult to just stand up and casually walk toward the unknown.
Well, the source material acknowledges that exact gap between intellectual understanding and physical action.
Thank God, because I need a strategy here.
It provides a very specific mechanism for bypassing the freeze response, and it requires another major shift in how we approach our goals.
Okay, what is it?
The ultimate requirement, according to the text, is that action must happen before confidence appears.
Wait, action before confidence. That is completely counterintuitive to how most of us operate.
It's the opposite of how we're taught to do things.
Seriously. The standard operating procedure is, I need to research this, I need to feel confident, I need to feel perfectly ready, and then I will take the leap.
We constantly wait for certainty. We just wait and wait. But the text explicitly dismantles that approach.
Why doesn't waiting work?
You cannot wait for certainty, because certainty only exists in the known. You literally cannot feel certain about a situation you have never experienced.
Oh, wow. I've never thought about it like that.
Your brain does not have the empirical data to generate the feeling of confidence yet. It's impossible.
So the solution the text offers is this strategy of taking micro steps to essentially sneak past the brain's alarm system.
So you can pass the bodyguard.
Exactly. It mentions specific examples like sending a brief message, trying a new hobby for just 10 minutes, or exploring an idea without fully committing to it.
Those microsteps are the neurological workaround. They are exactly how you hack the central nervous system.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me because it sounds like a testing the waters strategy.
Very much so.
Think about getting into a freezing cold pool. If you just run up and do a massive cannonball into the deep end, your body goes into absolute shock.
The old panic mode.
Right. The alarm bells ring, your lungs gasp for air, your brain screams that you are in mortal danger. That is exactly what making a massive sudden life change feels like to your amygdala.
The sudden immersion triggers a maximum level somatic threat response. You've shocked the system.
Right. But consider the alternative approach to that exact same cold pool. If you sit on the edge and just dip your toes in the water, your nervous system registers the cold, certainly.
It feels it, yeah.
But it also registers that your core temperature hasn't plummeted, your heart rate hasn't spiked wildly, and, you haven't lost access to oxygen.
The bodyguard doesn't tackle you over a cold toe.
Exactly.
It's so true. The physiological equivalent of acclimatization takes place.
Acclimatization. I like that word for this.
Yeah, by exploring the new opportunity without full, immediate commitment, by just dipping your toe, you trick the brain into realizing there is no lethal threat.
You're proving to it that you won't die.
Exactly. You are slowly acclimatizing the threat detection system to a new reality, rather than shocking it into lockdown. Sending one exploratory email or spending 15 minutes researching a new industry. It does not trigger the cannonball level alarm.
And as you take those micro steps, you are basically gathering new data points. You are showing your brain that you engaged with the unknown and you survived.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of neuroplasticity, we see the profound mechanics of change at work here.
How so?
These small actions actively reduce neurological resistance over time. The text points out that the brain learns through this process that the change is not dangerous.
It's updating its database.
Exactly. Gradually, it becomes easier to take slightly larger steps. This is about training the brain through hard evidence, not relying on sheer willpower.
I love that distinction. Evidence, not willpower. Because trying to overpower your survival instinct with just pure motivation, it's exhausting.
It really is.
It's a literal battle against your own biology.
It is an unwinnable war. Willpower is a finite resource. You will run out of it.
Right.
But when you send that message or you publish that first piece of work and the world does not end, you have handed your brain an undeniable piece of evidence.
You proved the bodyguard wrong.
Yes. The next day, you take another small step, and you survive that too. You are slowly building a database of safety in the realm of the unknown.
That's amazing.
And here is the kicker. The confidence does not magically appear out of thin air beforehand.
Right, because we established that earlier.
The confidence is a direct result of the evidence you gather by taking those micro steps.
So, when the text emphasizes exploring an idea without full commitment, it is really validating the idea of just like playing around with your curiosity.
Absolutely. Keep the stakes low.
You don't have to quit your corporate job today to follow your excitement about graphic design. You just have to spend 20 minutes sketching.
Exactly.
You don't have to sell your house and move across the country tomorrow. You just, look at some neighborhood maps online.
You are intentionally lowering the stakes so the amygdala stays dormant.
That is so practical.
And as you gather more evidence that these small explorations are completely safe, the loud, blaring fear naturally begins to recede.
It quiets down.
It does. And as the fear quiets down, that subtle, quiet voice of excitement becomes so much easier to hear and much easier to follow.
It is incredibly validating to walk through these mechanics, like to know that the freezing, the sudden terror, the overwhelming urge to just run away from the exact things we want the most. It is all just standard operating procedure for a human brain.
We are not broken.
Right. We are not broken. Our internal security systems are just highly tuned to a world that doesn't quite exist anymore.
We are operating flawlessly according to our design.
It's just an outdated design.
Exactly. The friction occurs because our neurological design is optimized for an ancient environment where stepping outside the known perimeter meant literal physical danger.
Like predators or starvation.
Right. Today, stepping outside the known usually just means risking a bruised ego, a rejected proposal, or maybe an awkward conversation.
But the amygdala still reacts as if there's a tiger in the bushes.
It absolutely does. We have to manually update our internal software through these micro actions to reflect our current reality.
Man, that is powerful. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the anatomy of brave motion, let's distill the ultimate takeaways from these excerpts for everyone listening.
Sounds good.
The overarching message here is that following your excitement is not about learning how to remove fear.
Attempting to remove the fear first is a recipe for permanent paralysis.
Right.
If you wait for the fear to disappear, you will literally never take the first step.
And building on that, the goal is never to feel completely ready.
Because readiness requires certainty.
Yeah.
And as we discussed, certainty is the literal opposite of growth. Certainty only lives in the past, in the things you have already accomplished.
So the real objective is to recognize that fear and growth are like permanent roommates. They will always exist together.
Always.
The strategy is to identify that one microstep, to dip that toe in the water, and to move forward anyway, allowing the action itself to gradually generate the confidence.
It is a fundamental shift in your relationship with the unknown. You are moving from a defensive, protective posture to an exploratory one.
Building a new neural pathway of safety.
One small piece of evidence at a time.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with, based on everything we have just uncovered about our neurological hardware today.
This should be good.
Well, we have established that the human brain is built for survival and strictly prefers the known and predictable. It wants to keep you completely safe, insulated from any potential anomaly at all costs.
That's the baseline, yeah.
But I want you to mull this over. If your brain's default setting is to keep you perfectly safe in the realm of the predictable, is the pursuit of absolute safety actually the biggest danger to experiencing a fully lived life?
Oh, wow.
Right. If we never challenge the amygdala, we might technically survive, but do we ever truly expand?
That is the ultimate tension we all navigate. The ancient biological imperative to survive versus the deeply human desire for a meaningful, expansive life.
It's definitely something to seriously think about the next time you feel that sudden hesitation creeping in right when an amazing opportunity presents itself.
For sure. Remember the bodyguard?
Yes, remember the bodyguard. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It is always a pleasure to dissect these fascinating concepts and figure out how we actually tick.
It was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep taking those micro steps.